Hello, welcome to Lifetime. I'm Tinny Cook. Lifetime is about people, places and happenings in our community. Now let's see where our reporters take us.
This is the Cameo Cinema in Belgrave, set amidst the hilltops of the beautiful Dandenong Ranges in Victoria. On show here today, select art house films including Hugo 3D, which I'll be reviewing today, and popular mainstream films, as well as many others who are both popular and art house, for a broad range of audiences, adults and children alike. Behind me you see the Moonlight Cinema, which is unique of its kind in all of Victoria's cinemas because it's an outdoor cinema where you can take a rug and have a picnic on a summer's day or spend New Year's Eve here. So I'm Danielle Carr and I'm going to be presenting the film review of Hugo 3D today. The magic of 3D has inspired the imaginations of audiences around the world as this format becomes a more prevalent form of cinematic production. The potential of what 3D means for film is speculated upon in Hugo 3D. In its exploration of human emotion, evocation of real-life settings and exposition of character. Hugo, like all substantial films, originates from a literary source. In this case, Brian Selznick's novel, The Invention of Hugo Cabret. At the centre of the film, and much of its publicity, is an iconic robot, through whose animated eye, viewed by the audience of both adults and children alike, is an irrevocable tragedy. It is easy to assume that the film will centre around the automaton, but instead it culminates in an exciting discovery which informs us about the origins of cinema. A fitting theme, perhaps, considering it's a film so much based around this technology and its innovations. The film is craftily directed by Martin Scorsese, in whose films can be observed a sharp editing style and artistic vision in such vignettes as New York Stories, and headlining films such as the much acclaimed Taxi Driver in 1976. And the art house historical romance The Age of Innocence in 1993, based on Edith Wharton's stylish masterpiece of literary fiction, published in the early part of the 20th century. The contented world of innocence and learning, which is cultivated in Hugo by his father, played by Jude Law, is sadly interrupted by a museum fire, leaving him fatherless. Yet the robot his father lovingly repaired survives, and Hugo treasures him even as he forges a new life, although a difficult one, with his uncle, an alcoholic watchmaker. The inevitable shape of time is encircled in the clock of Gare Montparnasse, the railway station where Hugo spends his days, subsisting on the friendship of strangers, and dodging an inspector, played with a comedic touch by Sacha Baron Cohen, who threatens to deposit him in the local orphanage. Following his father's death, Hugo is certain that a special message awaits for him inside the automaton, which can only be revealed if the automaton is revived and animated again. In this way, the robot becomes the writer, and the only one who can ultimately release Hugo from the entrapment that currently frames his life. Hugo's father's love of cinema, including the French filmmaker Georges Méliès, one of cinema's pioneers, is followed closely throughout the film. Unfolding is the evolution of one of the earliest science fiction fantasy films, Voyage to the Moon, 1902. And we are whisked through a wonderful, eclectic insider's journey into the process of filmmaking, assisted by the additional innovation of 3D film technology, as though we are physically stepping inside through Méliès' fragile factory of glass and illusion. A toy shop owner played by Ben Kingsley is at first a disparaging figure, stealing poor Hugo's notebook. Later he successfully captures the enthusiasm of a film producer burgeoning on the edges of a new era, when the moving image could encapsulate, through symbolism, the beauty of nature, albeit in an easily identifiable form in its early stages of cinematic creation. Hugo is played by Asa Butterfield. His round, naive eye absorbs an expansive world of the Paris Underground Railway Station, as we voyage with him in between the walls of childhood fantasy and adult fascination with automation. Whilst Hugo 3D promises dynamic graphics, especially due to the nature of its format, it mostly becomes an informed essay, to use the French term, on the history of cinema, noting that the birth of the film actually occurred in France in the late 19th century. Although it is interesting to speculate that the first feature film, a 70-minute feature, was actually from Australia and made there in 1906. So audiences with a curiosity about the true history of film will understand the purpose of this film particularly. More, however, could have been explored of the connection between the synchronistic imagery, of the relationship between clocks and robots, and their three-dimensional nature.
Melbourne has so many great places to go. Sometimes it's hard to choose where to actually find a good place.